Welcome, everyone. My name's Cheryl Harrison, and I am the Deputy Director for WFP's Global Cash Transfers division. And I'm just so excited to be here with you all today, to be back at Financial Inclusion Week, which is just such an important event to get together and share information, innovations about how to increase the number of women who have accounts and use financial products and services and are financially included. This session is a really interesting one. It's about champions, and we've got 4 champions here with us today. They're going to tell you exactly what they do. But first, I just want to kick off by saying a few words about why it's so important that we do have champions. Everywhere I go, when I visit our operations, WFP has operations where we use cash in almost 70 countries. And every time I go out to visit, the teams in the field, and also to talk to the women who are receiving cash from WFP or from the government that we're supporting, the women tell me they're really super happy to have their own account. They're really super happy to have their mobile money wallet. But they also tell me that it was really difficult to get there. It wasn't straightforward. It wasn't easy. And if I have to put it in as simple a terms as possible, champions are people who care and people who help, people who really care that each individual woman manages to get her own account, that she knows how to use, and that all of the barriers that she faces to get there are dealt with, resolved, and she has a helping hand to make it there. So those are very general terms that I've described it in, but you get to hear now from 4 champions that we have with us today, who will talk in more detail about what exactly champions do and why they're so important. I'll just start by introducing each one of them, and excuse me, because I'll have to read this part. I'm not that great at memorizing. First of all, we have Desiree Bahali Mbwire. Desiree is playing a really key role as a digital community champion in Nacha Valley refugee settlement. He's already helped more than 500 people to get their own accounts in a variety of different banks. So he doesn't work with one bank. He's agnostic that way. He's also a trainer now for the Hey Sisters Show Me the Mobile Money campaign, which is a campaign to build women's confidence in using mobile money. And he's been resident in Nacha Valley refugee settlement for 7 years, coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We also have with us Agnes Mukandakez. She's Opportunity Bank's branch manager in Nacha Valley refugee settlement in Uganda, and this is really interesting and really important because she was the first to open for any bank an actual permanent branch in a refugee settlement in Uganda. So it was a really big challenge, really exciting work that she did. She started the branch out in a tent. I can really relate to that. Being in WFP, often we start off our support in a tent, and then she spearheaded the growth of the Nacha Valley Service Center into a fully fledged permanent bank branch. So really, really impressive work over just a few years, and really excited to have her here with us. Enes Halaika. Enes Halaika is a senior knowledge and business analytics manager at the Jordan Payments and Clearing Company. The acronym for that is JOPACC. It's a private shareholding company mandated with operating and developing payment systems in Jordan. Enes worked also for Her Majesty Queen Rania for a number of years, and then she shifted her career to digital finance and has been working for 6 years, looking into investigating, finding the right way to empower women through financial inclusion, and also looking at refugees and trends in the financial sector. We also have Judith Agaba Kiza, who's a colleague of mine. She's a program officer with WFP in Nachivale, Uganda, and she supervises the Digital Champions program. She's a public health professional and brings on board innovative rights-based approaches to sustainable livelihoods, cash-based transfers, financial literacy, women's economic empowerment, and works very much mainly with marginalized women, youth, and refugees. So these are our panelists, and really, really looking forward to hearing from all of you. I'm going to start with you, Desiree, if you're ready. Desiree, when I was in Nachivale earlier this year, we met for the first time. I was there with Judy Zimmerman, with Jamie Zimmerman. She's with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we came to talk to all of you and see the work that you were doing. And I know that she and I both walked away super impressed and super convinced with the way that you and others in your group of champions were explaining to us what you did. Can you give that same kind of explanation to everyone here? How do you talk to men, other men, and convince them that it's good for everyone if we direct money to women, and especially if we can put it into women's own accounts?
Thank you very much for the question. We have a different culture in Nachivale, and men do not seem to allow women to earn the money after family. It was objective to convince them women manage the funds for the family, as well as to see how they can have their own accounts. We started talking to men, and we started telling them that women are good managers. They are good managers, and whatever they do with their money is for the interests of the family. Different to us men, who can take the money, we use it for maybe beer, and that will not come for the family. So when we told them that, we started telling them that they can let the women manage at least the cash for food which they are receiving from the family. Consequently, to give the ATM cards to their wives, the ATM cards plus the PIN code. This was not easy because men did not accept that women can manage well the funds, because they used to say that they are extravagant, they can use the money in the other thing, they buy anything at any time when they find money. But thanks to this program, I managed to convince them that whatever they buy is for the sake of the family. So they gave the women the cards, and today I was receiving almost 1,500 people on my desks coming for cash for food. And today, at least at 75% today who are coming for money, cash for food, are women. And this money, men have time back to thank me, telling me that actually this program has worked well for their wives, because now they are managing well the fund which they are receiving for women. Another thing was the culture for some people who do not allow the women to go the bank services, like the Somalis people whom we are having in our settlement. So this way to approach first the men, I tell them the good thing of letting the wife having an account, managing some small businesses, even going up to request for a small loan so that they can bring something to their families. And today, I'm happy that some people, in those women who have been, from the men who are interested in this program, they allowed the ladies to go and open an account, and consequently, they are now managing their accounts plus their business, which they were doing. It was not easy, but thanks to this program, we have managed it.
That's really fantastic. I absolutely love that story. And have you had any situations where there was pushback, and if from the men, where they resisted, and what did you do in that case?
Actually, when we're having some resistance, we could, because we know each other, we could say, give them an example from a neighbor. Go and ask this and that. We quote the name, maybe plus the address, because they are known. We have interested him in the program. He's using it, and now you can see if at least his wife is misusing the fund. Sometimes because we live together in the settlement, they go, they meet that person, they ask the successful story about this program. And once they see that it worked well for their family, they copy it and they start following the same steps.
It's fantastic. It's really changing social norms from the ground up, and just sharing information between families, and really finding ways to talk openly about the challenges. Thanks so much, Desiree. Judith, you were sort of you started this idea in Nacha Valley. How did you come up with it? This idea of having champions, a network of champions, and especially a network of men who are also champions. How did you come up with that idea? You know, what would your advice be to another entity or operation or program that would want to replicate this?
Thank you so much, Sherry. Good evening, good morning, colleagues, wherever you are. Yes, I just want to go straight to Nakivale Refugee Settlement. We do have over like 14 nationalities. And of course, when you have 14 nationalities from all over the world, that means, of course, there are very many different diverse social norms and social cultures that normally affect women in participating in some of these innovations that we bring on board. And of course, on the other side, we do have, of course, as WFP, we do have cash-based transfers from where we are reaching over 90% of the beneficiaries that we have. And we are talking about the refugees living in Nakivale settlement. Now, the case for us here was, how do we bridge the gap? How do we bring the different people from different nationalities to take on the digital financial services and, of course, be digitally included within the platform? Now, of course, as WFP, we didn't have any, like, we needed to reach out to the people, we need to reach out to the communities, we need to get to understand the women, we need to understand their barriers, their fears, their concerns. And then there was no other way of us reaching out to them other than engaging the people that come from their very communities from where they live. So we had to identify the people, the digital champions who could come and talk to the people in the way that they can relate, because these people live in their communities. They speak the same language, they are the same people, they have the same challenges. The only difference was that we needed to bring men on board, because then when you check literature, like globally, you find that the women are affected by, you know, their social, cultural things that we have to address. Now, who else would do a better job for us other than the community, the digital champions, specifically the men, to empower the women to understand, but also to talk to the men who would potentially enable the women to access the digital financial services. Then the other thing that we had to look at was, okay, we do have this cash-based transfers, and we have over 90%, like I already said. So we had to do digital financial literacy, so that women understand, but also the champions understand exactly what it is that we want to bring on board. We want to make sure that the gender dynamics are addressed. Now, using the digital champions, it was very, very relevant for these guys to be trained in digital financial inclusion, digital financial literacy, advanced financial literacy, to make people realize the advantages that come with, you know, empowering and building the capacity of these women using so many other different platforms. Then on the other side, the champions, how we came up with these guys, we are looking at the early adopters. We are looking at people who have the passion to move their communities. They want to see women move forward. They want to understand and talk to the women and the men alike to see the advantages of having these people included on the bigger platform of having cash-based transfers and taking advantage of the fact that we are actually moving from giving food and having cash. So when we try to look around and say, okay, how is it working? When we start registering things like, we now plan together. I don't have to fear my wife taking, going to collect food, cash for food, because she can plan, she understands. We feel like this is success for us. Again, we've also registered reduced, domestic violence, women who have been violated against because of these misunderstandings. If anyone comes up and they don't understand what exactly is happening, the digital champions are there to actually make them understand, explain to them. And they also play a role of, mentoring and making sure that people move and try to understand that, yes, this is the direction we are taking, and it's safe and very okay to have women take care of the cash that is meant for, for household use. Now, Sherry, you mentioned something to do with replicating this program. If we want, from our lessons learned, I think it's very important for colleagues, tuned in to understand their own platforms. For example, I've said we have cash. So if we have cash, then we have to layer on some other programs that come along. So you layer on the existing programs, you try to integrate cash, digital financial inclusion into what is already existing. The other thing is you need to generate evidence, what is working and what is not working, so that you get to know that when you're trying to convince these people, you have evidence that is actually, convincing enough to allow people to take on some of these unnatural things that don't come naturally. And then probably lastly, it's very important that you identify strategic partners. For example, in our area here, we were able to identify the financial service providers like Agnes here. There was no bank, and then these guys came and put up the bank. So we are bringing services closer to the women so that they are able to take up the platform, but also know that if they have something, they can go to the bank. It's just closer to them. But also, besides the bank, we also have the agents that are also there. Like now, Desire is also an agent. The women can go and approach the agents. They are not strange to them because some of them are refugees. In fact, like 95% of them are refugees. So they can reach out to them and ask any question. So that has helped them build the confidence and then try to, take on some of these things. So they come up to ask, what next, what next? So when we keep hearing these kinds of questions, we feel very confident, and that is that, yes, what we are doing together as a team is working perfectly fine. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Judith. And so you identified Desiree, for example, because he was an early adopter. How exactly do you find early adopters? You're on mute,
Come
Judith.
again, Sherry?
I said, so you identified Desiree amongst other men because they were early adopters, but how do you identify an early adopter?
So it is just very easy, because we do have a whole package of community engagement. So every time you're engaging in the communities, you get to understand these guys who are very quick to ask questions. For example, they are very much interested, and then they tend to ask, okay, they give like scenarios. Like, I have this kind of challenge, I have this kind of challenge, I have my neighbor, I have this, this, and this. So when you engage them, you find them asking, like many questions and many questions. And so they're interested. So like, okay, can I also have this? Can I also have that? Can I have the other one? In an event that I have this, how can I also have the other one? So you find them having very much interest and also trying to share their own cultural norms from where they come from. I already mentioned we have over 14 nationalities here in Nakivale. So you find different people telling you, actually explaining to them what their culture does to women. And so you say, so would you be interested, for example, in taking up that space? And they are just very quick to say, yes, that one would be very, very interesting. And so from the time we started until now, you really find their stories have changed. They even tell you, I have worked on this person here, and this is what they're changing. They have actually now done this. They are actually now going and accessing, trying to ask for maybe loans to start some, small businesses, and they are okay. The husbands are okay. The wives are okay. So it's really working perfectly fine. And so when you find someone who is ready to share their story from the from the community where they come from, maybe from Congo, how they treat women, and they say they really are passionate, they want to know and see how they can help their own communities, definitely that becomes a quick catch. You just bring him on board because it then doesn't take, you don't put in a lot of effort to get this person on board. So this is how we identified some of these guys.
Okay, thanks, Judith. That's crystal clear and actually super interesting. I'm gonna move to Agnes now. Agnes, when Jamie and I were there in Nacha Valley, we visited your brand new branch. And certainly it was clear that the Opportunity Bank has identified the refugee settlement, the residents there, and women in particular as being really worthy of investing. It was super exciting to see. Can you explain what role you play as a champion to accompany the women from Nacha Valley settlement on their way to becoming financially included in the formal financial sector? What role do you play?
Well, thank you so much, Sherry. I'll start by giving a story of my experience in Nacha Valley. Well, when I started in Nacha Valley, I was working under a tent. Yeah, so every time rain came, it would actually just wash away the tent. So when the bank brought up a suggestion of putting up the branch, one thing I first did was to advocate for refugee-led organizations to put up a branch. But most importantly, I wanted women to actively participate in this. So interestingly, I believe you actually visited our branch. That beautiful branch was set up by refugees, of which 40% were women. These income, but actually they were also they also were financially included because they ended up opening up accounts. They also had this feeling of confidence in them. I surely believe also actually they started having that with the family. I mean, they had. I surely believe actually they had to start planning as a family, because if you have a say, you've worked, you have a say, you are able to go ahead and actually also plan with your money. Then secondly, I've personally participated in product development of refugee products. But back in my mind, I already think of a woman. So I've had experience with different women in the settlement, of which actually, of course, among the challenges they have always shared with me, that is KYC challenges, that is know your customer challenges. Some of them have small businesses, of which actually they fear to reach the bank. So among the products actually that I came up to advise management of Opportunity Bank was the VSLA product, the Village Saving and Loan Association product. These VSLAs are women come together, different women come together, or even men and women come together, they save together, they loan to each other. So as a bank, as a bank, we are able to even go ahead and even invest in these VSLAs. They are able to give to more women that are excluded. Yeah. So, and then maybe my last point would be actually my last point is the financial inclusion, the financial literacy, the financial trainings. As Opportunity Bank, I have actually advised management to always include women, and in this way, actually, we ended up employing different employees, refugee women, that actually they are the ones who go ahead in the settlement, who go ahead in these groups, to go ahead and then train, to give them empowerment. I personally do the trainings, and I've given them my experience. They have already seen me coming, going to their groups, giving them real life experiences. Even me myself, seeing me there in the settlement, leading them, I'm like, I empower them. Like, you should teach a child to actually be like me. And this has really made them work their way out. I've seen this through the COVID times. Most of them actually ended up getting something to do. Right now, Native Valley is economically active. And when you go to the markets, you will find women. Thank you.
Certainly, I saw it myself, Agnes. It was amazing because I had worked in Nakivale in Uganda years before, and the settlement has been transformed. It really is true with the advent of using cash and all of the financial products and services now available. It was very, very exciting to come back and to visit it. Enes, we're going to move to you next. JOPACC's doing some just amazing work in Jordan, and I know that our team, our WFP team there, works very closely with JOPACC. In 2021, I hear that you started a digital financial services champion program, Enes, to recognize change makers, champions who contribute to the expansion and acceptance of digital financial services. And that in the very first year, 3 women were selected, which is a really important sign, because in Jordan, indeed, it's one of the highest gender gaps in financial inclusion in that country. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Tell us a little bit more about why champions are so important to promote digital financial inclusion, especially in a context like Jordan, where women face many more obstacles than men do.
Thank you, Cheryl, first of all, for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be with you here today. Let me start by explaining that JOPACC is a payment system operator. So we work mainly with financial institutions, with banks and mobile payment service providers, which means we do not interact on a daily basis with end users. And that's why we have introduced some outreach programs to form a better understanding of the needs of end users and make sure we cater to them, and also to inform decision-making on the level of financial institutions and stakeholders in the financial sector. So 2 years ago, and right after COVID has impacted our lives, we introduced the DFS Champions Program. And we essentially wanted to identify and recognize change makers who share our objective of increasing financial inclusion in Jordan. Those change makers have proactively and voluntarily took initiatives to reach out to different segments and make sure they understand digital financial services, and they encourage them, they worked on encouraging them to adopt digital financial services. So in the first year, 3 women have been selected, and we were very happy to see that women led the efforts in the year after COVID. And these women have worked with different target groups and represented different segments. So one of the winners was basically a woman, basically a community leader, we can call her that, who has learned about digital financial services, has tried them and was very happy with the experience. So she decided to help other women in her community to try mobile payments, and especially after COVID. So this woman has actually helped a good number of women, has connected with us regularly to make sure that she understands the concept and she has the knowledge she needs to convince other women and to help them use them. So this was one of the winners. We also had a winner from the National Aid Fund, which is a governmental body that is mandated with dispersing aid for vulnerable groups. And this entity used to disperse aid either through cash payments or through bank transfers. But there was a large percentage of beneficiaries who received this aid in cash. So after COVID, cash was not an option. And the winner basically led the efforts of this institution to introduce mobile payments as a method of transferring aid. And she has worked closely with target groups, with beneficiaries, to make sure that they also understand how to open how to open a mobile wallet, how to use it, how to receive payments, how to use these payments or the funds that they receive to pay bills or to make other payments. So she was crucial in the transformation that has happened in her institution. And the third winner worked basically with community-based organizations and with farmers. And she worked with them also very closely day and night to make sure that they have access, they understand the service, they know how to benefit from it, and they're convinced of using it. And we really focused in our program not only on access to mobile payments, but also to active usage. because as you know, many people may open bank accounts or financial accounts, but may not regularly use them, probably because they don't understand the concept. So we wanted to make sure that those change makers have a lasting impact of their interventions, and we stayed in touch with them. And actually, the purpose of the program was to allow them to expand their exposure and connect with other players in the market, and perhaps also form partnerships to expand their efforts.
Okay, Anas, that's really, really super interesting. And I'm gonna circle back to you with another question in a little bit, but I can see there's a few questions that are starting to pop up. And I also wanted, before we head into our second set of questions, I wanted to just mention a little bit, because I didn't during my introduction, about, you know, why WFP, why we're even talking about this, why it's so important for us, digital financial inclusion and champions, why we're so excited about the subject of champions. So some of you who are online may or may not know that WFP, we give food, but we also give a lot of cash to help people when they're in really tight circumstances. So for example, last year, we gave about $2.3 billion in assistance to people, 41 million people, through cash transfers. And for us, we're seeing more and more that we can have a lasting impact if we team up with community members, financial institutions, and other partners like JOPACC to help people, and especially to help women to become digitally financially included. So it's not just about receiving a cash transfer from WFP, which is undoubtedly going to be helpful in that particular moment, but that it leaves women and communities with a lasting impact over time, and really focusing on building trust, like Desiree and Judith and Agnes are doing. You heard Agnes talking about good financial products and services. That's another really important aspect. And of course, Enes has all kinds of experience working with regulators to try and ensure that the environment is conducive to financial inclusion as well. So this is the rationale for the array of panelists here and talking about the subject of champions. I'm going to come back now to Desiree. Desiree, you also play a role in an association of bank agents in Nacha Valley. What do you think is needed to be able to encourage more women and men, but more women, and especially refugee women, to become bank or mobile money agents? What do you think is needed?
Thank you very much, Cheryl, for the question. This I had identified it during these different sessions of digital champions, and women were really interested in becoming bank agents and as well as mobile money agents. After we had explained them, after they had liked the idea of opening accounts, of using the telephones, after they had become good users of the telephones as well as their bank accounts, now the next step, they wanted to become as well agents. Challenges they were meeting. First of all, they were having issue of startup capital. They said we like the business, but the issue of having the startup capital is a problem. How did we manage to move up this challenge? We recommended them to open accounts and consequently meet the bank managers and request for loans. Some of them did this. Another issue was the lack of enough skills. This program opened them the mind of becoming agents. They had preferred that if they can get more skills in that business of agents, so that they can embrace it easily. Another issue was the regulation in the country, whereby refugees could not, thanks to their identity, open the agent mobile money account. But thanks to the leadership, where we managed to bring on board the people who do these regulations, and they are under study to see how they can make it easier to these women to become agents. So these are the three areas where we can help. We have identified the challenge they are meeting in becoming agents. As I said, the lack of capital, as I said, also the less skills they are having, as well as the present regulations which needs to change to allow them to be to embrace this activity. Thank you.
Amazing, and you're managing to do it, get more and more agents. It's really fantastic, really impressive. Enes, coming back to you again, JOPACC's been doing some really incredible work around related to digital experiments. Can you give us some more insights into that? Can you tell us more about that work?
Sure, absolutely. So digital experiment is a research concept where we introduce an intervention in a specific context, targeting a specific group, and measuring the impact of this intervention, which is like time bound. So we study the behavior of the target group before this intervention, during this intervention, and after this intervention to monitor the impact of this intervention. So far we have done 3 digital experiments targeting different types or different groups of women. And in those interventions, we focused on loyalty programs, on incentivizing usage, and on rewarding usage. And if you allow me, I want to share specifically an example that we had with women refugees, Palestinian women refugees in a camp. So it was a group of 500 women who were involved in a project where they produced embroidery, and it is sold outside Jordan. And they were paid their wages in cash. And after COVID, there were challenges reaching out to these women to pay them their wages. So we were approached by the entity that worked with them, and they wanted to explore the option of mobile money. So we tried to collect some insights on the context to make sure that we cater and introduce, to cater to their needs and introduce a proper intervention that is suitable for their needs. And of course, these women are financially excluded. They have never had an account, so they don't know how to manage an account. And imagine if it's a mobile account, then the technology elements could be a challenge. So we designed a program where we went to the camp basically for a few weeks, trained all those women on the usage of mobile wallets in smaller groups, made sure that they had the know-how. And we also addressed in the learning or in the training sessions the issue of women who do not own smartphones, because without a smartphone they would have trouble using all the features of a mobile wallet. So we held sessions specifically for those women, and we rewarded their attendance of those training sessions by giving them smartphones, basically. So we tested their knowledge and we gave them smartphones so that they have the tool to open a mobile wallet. And we introduced a rewards program where if they pay their bills using their mobile wallet, at the end of every week, we would have a draw and the winners would have their money back. So that would encourage them to use their mobile wallet for bill payment. And we monitored the issues that emerged, and we tried to see if they faced any barriers. And also, after we stopped this intervention, we looked at their behavior after this intervention, after the reward program stopped, to see if they would continue to use their mobile wallets or not. And combined with this effort, we had focus groups with women. So we went to the camp, listened to the issues that they face, made sure that we understand the context and that we can help if there are challenges that we have influence on. And it was very interesting to see that, in experiments, you put your theories to the test. So you want to make sure that whatever you introduce in terms of services, they're actually needed and desired. So when we went to the camp, we kind of tried to tick all the boxes we assumed were needed. So it was about having a smartphone, having awareness, perhaps also a reward program that encourages and incentivizes usage. But there were other issues that we were not aware of, and they emerged during the experiment and in the focus group discussion. So for example, access to agents was an issue. The number of agents was limited in the camp. And because it was a conservative environment, women were not comfortable dealing with male agents. So we immediately addressed the issue. We spoke with our partners, of course. And by the way, we always conduct our experiments in partnership with players like mobile payment service providers and financial institutions. So we spoke to our partners and we agreed to contract with them, that they contract female agents so that women feel comfortable going to those agents. And this has been addressed, and the action basically was taken on this point. So issues like that emerged, and we made sure that they are addressed. And we usually document those experiments, and we put our analysis and our recommendations, and we disseminate this knowledge in the market, because we want also other players in the market, even if they were not involved with us as partners, to really gain knowledge out of those experiments, and which could help them design their services and offering better. And until today, this experiment took place last year. Until today, we have regular calls with the camp, and to make sure that they're still active in terms of usage, and just to check if they need any help or if there's anything we can support with. Even as you mentioned, regulatory issues, because sometimes regulations could be a barrier to adoption, especially by vulnerable groups or by refugees. So this is an issue also we looked at, and we involved the Central Bank of Jordan, who has been really helpful in addressing the challenges that emerged. And the last point I want to mention about this program is that, as you said, whenever you go to a community, you always find champions. So we had women who were enthusiastic about the program. From day one, they came, with their bills. They tried to pay their bills using their mobile wallets. The next day, they were helping other women. They have become, a reference for them. So they were really leading the change because they have borne the fruit of it, and they wanted other women to also try the service and benefit from it. So those are valuable, really valuable reference and valuable addition to our programs. And we know that their impact will last even after we end our experimentation tools.
That's fantastic. And I love the digital experiment, and the fact that, women weren't just being experimented on, they were active participants and really helping to shape the way forward. And that you found also that, this barrier that we don't think about too much, about women trusting women more as agents, and how important it is to have women agents. Judith, I'm just going to pop back to you. Is this something similar that you found in Nacha Valley, that women would prefer to deal with women agents, and if so, why?
Yes, Sherry, thank you very much. Absolutely. This is something that we face all the time. And it was one of the barriers as to why women are not taking up some of the agents, because they didn't have the people that they look up to. So just to share with what when she was talking, I could really relate with what we are having here, like in Nakivale, because then I just have one very nice example of a lady who started, and she was so timid and she was so fearful, but she was just operating a small mobile money shop. Now, when this opportunity came up, we quickly said, you're the only lady. At that time, she was the only one. And so people would be like, no, this thing here is not for the men. There's only one lady. So the women, so there was nothing to admire about. But then with the engagements, and of course, with the help of the community members, and specifically the digital champions, talking to her, strengthening her, giving her hope for the future, and having a strategic direction for, with the cash being available in the settlement, it was easy for her to take up some of these responsibilities. Now, with that, we actually had her as a conduit to bring on other women, because the more she expanded her business, the more women would come and say, but how are you doing it? How possible is it? And how are you managing as a lady? And the beautiful thing about it was that she was doing that business, but her husband was not doing the business. At the end of the day, the husband actually helped her to increase her capital. Desire was talking about capital. The man was like, okay, I think this is worthy an investment. Put it in, have some more cash. And so the husband supported her to increase her capital. Now, what did the other women do? Even those who were scared, they came and say, how can we do this? And then she was like, it's just a simple thing. You have people here. We have the financial service providers that are always coming around to support. If I have any problem, I just call. And then she even just makes an immediate phone call, and these guys are there to help her. And so she makes people see that it's actually something that is very possible for everybody. Now, we started from just having almost zero. We got one person. Now we have 10 female champions, and then we have other people now who are demanding that they want to take on this kind of adventure, because it is not only for business, but it is very empowering. Women have where to go and talk about their issues, whether it's female related issues, whether it is financial related. At least they have people that they can relate with, including sharing their own responsibilities, their own fears, their own ambitions. And so these other champions help them to see hope for the future. This way, we are able to know that, yes, the gender gap in as far as digital financial inclusion is concerned is very possible by having some of the women like this, deeply embedded within the communities, but also having platforms and people that can ably support them just by a quick call. That's what I can say.
That's fantastic. Super helpful. Agnes, I want to jump to you now, because you did something so interesting starting up that branch for Opportunity Bank. You must have, in the course of all of that, made a pretty strong business case to Opportunity Bank. What do you think? Just tell me, if another like really smart a woman leader in an organization in another bank wanted to do the same thing, what are the main elements of the business case? What should she highlight for starting a branch in a refugee settlement?
Thank you, Sherry. One thing I can actually start with, women refugees are actively involved in different profitable businesses. I've interfaced with these several times. You find that women who are running businesses like butchery, wholesale, over 10 million shillings, Uganda shillings. I mean, and you wonder, are these refugee women? And yes, they are. So ideally, and actually, some of them, we have financed them as a bank. Surprisingly, actually, the refugee women, they are one of actually the best paying clients. Those that have given their portfolio at risk, like for women, it is actually at 5% vis-a-vis the men, which is at 10%. So, I mean, this shows you how these ladies can be, how easily, they show that they can work, secondly, I've also witnessed several women enterprises, that is the refugee group enterprises, of which these groups come up they come together with an income generating activity. There are so many of them there. They actually just need business skilling. They just need entrepreneurship skills, and maybe just a small push. They are investment ready. And also maybe what also I can give another example is like Opportunity Bank is a private sector. We bumped into there. We advised management that, by the way, because of this, I mean, we have designed products products of the refugees. Ideally, it's all about engaging them, not to think for them. When you engage them, when you understand them, when you understand their challenges, when you understand their needs, that you will be able to build a business case. And to be honest, they will actually be able to take up your product. We've seen this, and actually, I can give an example of also Opportunity Bank officially started its operations officially started like 1 year back, which is actually in September last year, and we have already broken even. What does that give you? What does I shall try to actually give that gives you a clear example of how private sectors can actually really, be very profitable. Thank you.
That's fantastic. And you already answered my follow-on question to you, is your branch turning a profit? But that's great. Breaking even is the perfect place to be in. Congratulations. That's really, really super. So we have a question in the chat that I want to actually throw to Judith. Judith, one of the viewers is asking, how does WFP engage, or how did you engage with local government as a key stakeholder to get buy-in for the idea of switching from using food like WFP used to in Nachi Valley, switching from food to cash transfers? What was your engagement with the local government? How did that go? Just fill us in a little bit.
Thank you so much, Sherry. I think for me, something beautiful came up from moving from in-kind food distribution to cash. Why? I think it came at a point when the government of Uganda was also trying to transition from, the national development plans from, National Development Plan 2 to National Development Plan 3. So in the development plan, they had priorities. And one of the priorities actually was to see how they can have something to do with financial inclusion, women economic empowerment, and of course, developing economies, as they were doing the transition. Now, this was also the same time when we were transitioning from in-kind food to cash. So now convincing the government, of course, coming from our side as WFP, but also realigning it to the National Development Plan number 3, and specifically putting out that specific key issue that the government wanted to address. It was just a real good blend that we were actually going to make a contribution to the National Development Plan. And specifically here in the district where we work in Isinyiro, it was very great because they had it as an in the district development plan as one of the key priorities. Now, when we also check within our own WFP, of course, we are saying we want to enable governments. So one of the key issues is to make sure that we develop their capacity, create an enabling environment. So we support them to achieve their own priorities as government. And so with cash, and then blending it with how they want to have a digitally driven, economically empowered, population, including men, women, and youth, was just a very good blend. And so then we had to just jointly work on a few things. What did we need to address? Someone mentioned about the regulatory bodies. We cannot do regulations as WFP, but the government can help us minimize some of these things. We were talking about I think mentioned something to do with the refugees, having so many barriers, just starting with opening up bank accounts, even owning simple SIM cards from where they can transact business. And I think you mentioned something that was very beautiful at the beginning of this webinar. There was no cash, there was nothing, there were no financial service providers in Nachi Valley. But when you see it right now, you just see a very diverse and an economy that has moved as a result of having cash. When Agnes talks about break-even point, I can really relate. From moving 0 shillings to having over 90,000 refugees owning bank accounts, it's not only for the bank, but it's also for the government of Uganda. There is much that they are getting from there. Then relatedly, I just wanted to mention something. The time we were giving cash, they were giving food, there was nothing much that was happening between the refugees and the host communities, because then the host communities are producing food, the refugees are receiving food. So there was no cohesion between the two. But then with us bringing in the cash, there was now business. So the host community can bring in the food, and then the refugees can bring in the cash. So there is something that is very beautiful that is happening within the refugees where we work. There is social cohesion, there is some little bit of trust, and then there is introduction to some of these services that would not have otherwise come in if it wasn't for the cash that we introduced. So it's just a very great platform that we are very proud to be a part of. And I know that even the financial service providers, if it wasn't for the cash, then we wouldn't be having all these developments happening in the areas from where we work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith. You just brought that to life. That excellent answer. Yeah, so just had a reminder that I should probably make sure that we close on time, because a number of you have quite a drive back to Nacha Valley. Yeah, so I hope you make that drive very safely. We do have a few more minutes though, and if you'll bear with me, there is one question that came in early on, we thought to save it until the end, because it's not perfectly on subject, and yet frankly it's one of the questions I so often get when I'm talking about putting money into women's hands, putting money into women's accounts, prioritizing women's digital financial inclusion, that we you know, and we have such an excellent panel to comment on it, we might as well deal with it, even though it's not perfectly on topic. Often I am asked, and as we were asked by someone who is also watching this or participating in this meeting today, what do you do to prevent gender-based violence when you're talking, thinking, promoting women's digital financial inclusion and in cash transfer programs in general? And I'll give a very brief high-level answer, but then I would love to hear some of your experiences and your thoughts, and especially perhaps from you, if you have any thoughts on it. Otherwise, we can kick it to Agnes and Desiree as well. But in general, we know that gender-based violence does go up in households when they're under extreme stress, and especially when they're under financial stress. It's very the evidence shows that it's quite correlated. So just by helping to relieve that stress by giving families cash-based transfers, cash assistance, you can in fact in a sense relieve those that situation for women in the household. But I think people are asking the question in a slightly different way. I think they're worried that men are going to get annoyed, get angry, get aggressive when we are talking specifically about women's digital financial inclusion. Is this the case, do you think? And if so, what do we do? What are you doing to address it or to prevent it? Ennis, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. Although we had no direct engagement in cash disbursement or aid disbursement, we focused a lot on giving access to women, and the feedback we received from women was focused on financial privacy and how much they cherished having their own tools. And we received no reports of cases of gender-based violence in such programs. Perhaps other esteemed panelists would have more experience or insights on this topic.
So as in your 6 years working in this field, doing digital experiments, working directly with women, this is not something that has come up. It's not an issue that has come up for you.
Not really, because we did not have a direct engagement in cash disbursement specifically.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Desiree, do you have any thoughts on this? Okay. Desiree, you're not coming through clearly right now.
I didn't get well the question. Maybe
Okay,
connection.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Let's try again. Desiree, one of the people who's watching this show has asked a question about how do we make sure or how do we mitigate against or stop a situation where men would get upset because we are working on women's digital financial inclusion and giving money to women. How do you address that? And is it a big problem in Nacha Valley?
Yes, some men who were thinking that when women are financially empowered, they are going to undermine the role of men, or maybe they will no longer respect men. But this we have changed it. I've changed it during the campaign of Digital Champions, whereby we were showing them the hand of support from the woman also when she has to bring something on the table. Before, it used to be a man who was the sole provider of something to eat or for school fees or other needs for the family. But thanks to this program, I've shown them that women also can play a big role when they are financially empowered, and especially when they are given that opportunity, because before they were not given the opportunity of working. So letting them going to work, bringing something to table, this have changed the mindset of men who would think that women are going to undermine them when they are going to be empowered financially. And right now, many of them have shown that it is important to let the wife go into work, because now the wife can also support in fees payment thanks to the income generating activities, small income generating activities they are carrying out. They can pay fees, they can contribute in the food, and so on and so forth. And this has really changed the mindset of those men.
Okay, that's super, very helpful. And I just want to thank all the panelists for your really interesting and experiences, the knowledge that you have, and for sharing about what exactly champions do. What do we mean when we say that that champions are one of the key things that we need in order to accelerate women's digital financial inclusion? You brought it to life for all of us. We can see it from so many different angles. And big thank you to the team who drove all that way from Naki Valley just to make sure you had a good enough connection to join. I was so happy that the connection was good enough. And again, thank you so much. Have a great evening and stay safe.